Thanks, Robin. I have written some subheadings of my personal journey. I haven't written this verbatim at all. I'm just going to wing it. Hope it makes sense and it's not too rambling. My name's Gill. I'm 65. I was diagnosed in February 2012. And my journey is just beginning. The word journey Robin used at the beginning, and that sums it up beautifully for me. So I'm just beginning my journey. I've lived with CLL. I've put it where it belongs, firmly in the back of my mind. I've tried to ignore it. I've tried to get on with my life. But now and then I refer to it as a monkey on my back. I've shared it with my children. I don't know about the grandchildren, know about this, but I have got grandchildren. I've shared it with friends. I was reassured by my consultant, who was not, at this point, I'm not in Leicestershire. I'm in a different authority. I'm not mentioning which one, for obvious reasons, a bit later. My consultant reassured me that you will need treatment at some stage. But having done the reading, there was a cohort of people who kept under the radar, and I thought I'd be another one of those. This would never get me. I would carry on living my life. I looked the same. I felt the same. I felt a bit of a fraud, to be honest, to friends and family I'd shared the diagnosis with. The wording is very loaded: chronic, lymphocytic, leukemia. Odd times, yes, I got tired. When you're 65, maybe you do get tired. Odd times I looked in the mirror and saw a pale face looking back, but it's amazing what a bit of blusher can do now and then. I retired, I moved house, and got on with my life. I want to talk a little bit about the diagnosis. I had a routine blood test. At the time, my sister, who was 18 months younger than me, became very ill very quickly and had very, very aggressive cancer. Despite being married to a doctor and a son a consultant, none of us are invincible. And I was still working then, and I went to my GP and said, I need a doctor's note, I need a few days off to get up north. Oh, by the way, can I have a blood test? Just routine, just to see if there's any familial link and a bit of well-woman maintenance and all the rest of it. A day or two later, I had a phone call. You've got leukemia. Now, hand on heart, that is how the conversation went. You've got leukemia. No introduction, no, we've got your results. Could you nip in at a time convenient to you, maybe earlier than later, and we'll talk about it. You've got leukemia. There are things we can do. We can do chemotherapy, we can do stem cells. I'm terribly sorry about it. I'm going to refer you to a haematologist. You'll hear in about 10 days. We've done it urgently. Well, I was on my own, and I was shattered. Absolutely shattered. And after a lot of consideration and a lot of help and a lot of tears and a lot of discussion, I abandoned my politics and threw money at this and got an appointment with a consultant privately that very night. Having collected blood test results from the GP, so went along and learnt for the first time about CLL, of which I had no clue whatsoever. Learnt that it could be a chronic condition, it could be something like Robin said, somebody said, I've heard so much today, I'm a bit awash. You will die with this, not because of it. This is something you can live with. So that was the diagnosis. Now, what happened next? It was monitoring this awful watch and wait situation. Vague. How the dickens can I cope with this? What am I waiting for? What am I watching for? How long will this be? We live in a world where everything is measured. When's this actually going to kick in? I found that very difficult. What would this look like? How would I know whatever I was watching for had in fact arrived? What do you do in the meantime? You go for appointments every 3 months, then it went to 6 months and so on. I still felt okay. However, I didn't get away with it. I didn't get away with it at all. I got away with it until May of this year. And then the waiting became over. And here it made its presence known. It came very suddenly for me, and Dr. Kennedy described it as you've been felled. And I had chronic fatigue. I live in a standard sort of house with one flight of stairs, of which I had to, it was like climbing Kilimanjaro every evening. I had to measure and think, now do I really need to go up here, and stopping halfway. My heart was thumping. I had belonged, or still do, to a walking group, and we'd been down to, on a little walking holiday down in Devon, which is certainly not a plateau. I had to pull out of many walks. This is just a day or two before. I became quite lethargic. I became very pale, and I'm very positive normally and optimistic, and I could feel things were shifting. My mood was changing. Something wasn't quite right here at all. I felt like a car running on the wrong fuel, and in my life we have had experience of that actually happening, of putting petrol in the diesel. It doesn't work. I managed to struggle to the GP. I was in a bit of a heap, threw my list of symptoms at him and burst into tears. And within hours after that, I was in Osborne House being scooped up and having 4 packs of blood. Now, the CLL, this overarching condition, I'm still trying to get my head around this, but my problem was acute hemolytic anemia. And Dr. Kennedy's very good at Venn diagrams, is it? And charts. And he gave me, trying to explain this, but it's the only way I can understand it. It's a sort of add-on to CLL. If you have CLL, you are more likely to have this. And for one reason or another, and I don't know the trigger, the hemoglobin tumbled down. And when I was admitted, it was 4 instead of, I don't know what it should have been, about 13. And after about 5 nights in Osborne, I began to feel almost human again and came home with a doggy bag of medication to suppress this autoimmune problem. And that's where we are at the moment. They're not addressing the CLL. It's still very much in the background. But until we get problem A sorted out with this hemoglobin and get it steady, by balancing the drugs that I'm taking to suppress it, which are steroids, we can't sort out the CLL problem. So everything's being managed at the moment, and I have my little medication in the morning and in the afternoon, and I feel okay, apart from a few problems with the steroids that I'm sure we all know about, but still we work through all that. Where do we go from here? I don't know really. It's very complex, and that was highlighted by this morning's talk. It's like a layers of an onion, isn't it, really? Medicine's not an exact science. In my job, I'm used to having answers and clear yes, no, but this isn't like that at all. For me, adopting a passive role in a crucial situation is not normal at all. But now I have no choice, and I have to cope with grace, with something that I once struggled to master, and demonstrate patience. And for me, that's been quite hard. I think I've needed a new reboot of a mindset here. And I think until you accept that you don't always get the answers that you want straight away, life would be difficult. I'm developing a trust and confidence in all the staff at Leicester. I'm very, very impressed. And I've only just started to become a patient there after this episode recently. So why did I volunteer to do the talk? I don't know, really. I'm still wondering. This is the 4th conference I've attended. Shortly after diagnosis, I went to one in Hammersmith, GlaxoSmithKline. I went to one at Great Ormond Street I went to one in Liverpool in May, and I couldn't not come to this one on my doorstep, only living 6 miles away. Through this, I've met inspirational people. I've met people who I've maintained contact with, shared experiences with, met up with, and gained a lot of strength from. I'm leaving here today feeling positive, looking around, looking at all the people who've been through a shed load of stuff and to come out the other side. I feel excited and invigorated by all the new innovations. We're on the cusp of all this genome business. It's all very complicated, and I thought I had a scientific background until this morning's talk, and I did lose me a little bit there. So that's where I am. My journey's just beginning, 5.5 years, and we'll just carry on and hopefully manage this. That's what it's all about, managing it and living well with it, and living, I'm being seen 2-week intervals, and living life in those two-week intervals and not thinking, oh, you know, only a few more days to go until I get my bloods done again. So they're the reasons I'm here, and a lovely lunch. That was another reason I came today. So thank you very much, and very well organised, and a super day. Thank you. Cheers.